All right, so we're back for episode 9 of the Headquarters podcast. I'm joined by a very close friend of mine that has impacted a lot of the journey that I've had through music, but also 7-3 and being just a very close friend and somewhat of a mentor friendship as well. It'd be Glass. How you going, bro? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, like it's a two-way street. You've always also been somewhat of a mentor to me.
No, I appreciate it, bro.
In what we're doing,
Yeah.
even though it's somewhat different, it kind of meets in the middle.
Yeah. And I think that was something that I had written down on my list was, you might remember more than me, but how was it that our kind of friendship came together? Was it through...
It's Paddy.
Yeah, right.
So Paddy, who's a mutual friend of ours, I was mostly doing music with people from, you know, like the US and a few people from the UK and just kind of had sort of taken a step back from music and was reevaluating. And he said, and this is like, I think you'd only just started 7-3 from memory. He'd said, I got a friend who's doing clothes, he's doing music, you should reach out. And I reached out.
True.
And then, yeah, like I think we teed up that first session.
Was that the infamous session?
That was the infamous session.
Yeah, that was an interesting session. We definitely got... Oh, yeah, because we made that song called Cookies.
Yeah. I'd been saving some Girl Scout cookies in a jar for a very long time.
Yeah, and that was like the last time. I think that was the second last time I ever smoked weed, honestly. But it was, it was good fun. And I think, yeah, from there onwards, we've kind of gone back and forth. Obviously, you don't live down here, so there's a bit of the distance in between. But yeah, you've definitely been someone that's been present throughout the entirety really of developing this space. And I mean, it's been a pleasure to have someone like you on that has that past knowledge as well from various different things you've done. And you mentioned before, and it's on my list, and I think we may as well get straight back into it, but you mentioned about America and going over there. And I wanted to talk more on how that impacted your overall, like you as a producer and even just life in general.
It was life-changing in the sense of, you know, I put myself on a plane and I went to the other side of the world by myself, and I'd never traveled internationally either. So there was another level of difficulty to it. I was just kind of figuring it out. And, you know, like I had formed some internet friendships and stuff like that. So there were some connections there, but like you are still meeting strangers off the internet. So you don't know how you're going to vibe in person. You don't know how it's going to go. So that was huge for me. That was 2019. So it was a little while ago now, but it was also about 4 years into me really having a go at the producing thing. And yeah, I mean, like it's a whole other game over there. Like I went to California and I went to New York. And I didn't really go there for the touristy stuff.
You went there just to work and collaborate.
I went there to make relationships and just to see at that time, I guess how, like where I was at as a producer. So like there are so many talented people over there. There's so many talented people everywhere. Like in any creative sort of, it wasn't that I had to go there to find this out, but it was more like when I look back at 2019, the style of music that was I was making and that I wanted to make, it was popping over there. It was the stuff that I wanted to be in and amongst. So getting over there and just kind of meeting some of the people that I already knew from doing some music and stuff like that, that was good. But also like just trying to meet new people and put myself into just sort of uncomfortable situations because, again, like I'm in a place I've never been before. I don't know what to do. It's like... It was crazy, but I guess you just adapt and the people I met there were so lovely as well. Like it's not to say it was all me. I got over there and I did it all by myself. It was sort of this path I was following at the time. It just kind of was leading me to the right people, and I am still friends to this day. We maintain contact. So it was amazing, man.
Do you think you'd do it again?
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I mean the way the world is at the moment does kind of like
impact that choice.
And I mean, honestly, when I got back, you know, I got back just before COVID was just about to sort
True,
of
that would have been
really get
fucked
going.
being there when that was on.
Well, it had just sort of started as I got back.
Right.
So I'd missed it, but I wanted to get back really quick.
Yeah.
So I actually wanted, like, at that time, I felt like I had a bit of a momentum going in terms of I was putting out a lot of music. And I was just constantly reaching out, trying to form new relationships and stuff like that. So when I got back, it was kind of like, do I go over for another trip? Do I move? Do I use the relationships I formed and just kind of expand on that? And then, we know what happened next. COVID hit, and kind of, it's not to say I couldn't change that plan again, but yeah, I'd love to go back. It just depends on what happens, I guess.
Do you think like early on well, that wasn't early on. It was like what you'd said you'd been producing for about 4 years.
Yeah.
But even, I guess that's somewhat early days to a degree.
So I'd been doing music since I was 12. And I think at the time that I went to America, I must have been 23, 24, thereabouts. So like I'd already been doing music for a while, and had, like I started out playing guitar, so I'd done bands and stuff like that. So there was always a bit there, but then it was like, I want to write music for people.
Yeah.
And also with people. So it was a bit of...
Yeah, you're definitely a person that's like that, hey?
Yeah.
That loves the collaboration sort of aspect to it. Yeah.
I think especially now, the best stuff I do is when I'm in the room with someone.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the same as us. Like we've got some good stuff. Not that we've got stuff out at the moment. There's a lot in the vault, but our stuff when we've gotten together is definitely more locked in than if I've just sent you some. But
why do you think that is? What do you think? Like, is it just like a preference, or I don't know?
It's the whole. It sort of takes me back to like when I was in bands, right? Like you're sitting around with your mates in a room and you're just writing riffs and stuff together. You just like kind of vibe, and someone might not like something and the other person maybe has a better idea, and you kind of just building off of each other. And like, as much as I do like to sit there and write a whole beat and be like, this is the beat, now you do your thing. You're only going to get you're going to get a good product. But if I then do something with you, and you've honestly, there's been maybe, especially now more recent stuff we're working on, there's maybe 4 or 5 instances where I've sent you something and in my mind I've been like, this is it. I've probably been walking around the house like cheering myself on, hyping myself up, being like, this is it. He's got not even an idea will be here. But then you hit me with something and I'm like, damn.
Yeah,
I just had not considered it from that angle. So it's that. I think I very easily get locked into this is the right way to do it, or this is the best way. And that means there's a formula that I follow. So it's like, I am trying to challenge myself on that when I am writing by myself, but sometimes just having that extra person or in a room, like when I've collaborated with 4 or 5 people, it's just that energy. And
it's hard to collaborate with people because you also need to just have that trust in everyone to be able to be honest. 100%. So you can be able to be like, oh, I'm not really vibing with that. Because when you first meet someone and they produce something, I guess the first thing you don't want to say is like, oh, nah. Like, there's a nice way to say it. But I think how in those instances where you have collaborated with people, how have you like taken feedback? What do you think is the best way to like for someone that you're working with to give that, and how do you just deal with that feedback? Because say you've got something that you've been cooking on and you're like, this is the sauce, and then the person just comes back and they're just like, nah, I'm not vibing this.
Yeah, well, I mean, that has 100% happened, and it's, I mean, earlier on, like it would hit you because like, there is a bit of ego involved because when you're creating, you are your own hype man to start with, right? So like, you kind of got to be confident in the product.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't want to, here's this beat, I'm a little bit nervous about it, sort of thing. It's like, here's this product, I'm really confident in it. But then it's like anything, there's got to be that balance of, well, it might be a really good product, but someone might have more experience. Yeah. Maybe not even more experience, maybe just a fresher way of thinking. Or sometimes I've even found like with people that I've worked with that aren't, traditionally musical, right? Like maybe don't play an instrument, maybe haven't written stuff for a long time, maybe just fresh in the game. They'll explain something to me that they have in their mind. And I'm like, wow, like this musically makes no sense.
The idea
is amazing.
Yeah.
And like just being open to that is sort of like a huge thing. Yeah.
I think that's just like the process with creativity in general is it doesn't really have like a formula.
No, and it shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't really. And that's where like I think like you definitely do need it, especially within music, obviously, like the music theory side of stuff and all that. But the creativity is what it doesn't have like how to learn creativity like that. And I think that's where you get the most joy out of it and the most flow, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think what it comes down to is like, and it's so simple when you think about it like this, does it sound good? And if the answer is yes, well, you've done your job.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, and if you feel like enjoyment from listening to it, and it is just that simple. And that's where I struggled for a long time, was just like, and still do probably, there's this like competitiveness just with myself to be like, make the best product to send to you or to whoever I'm working with. So like it's, to go back to what you're saying about, you know, how do you take that feedback on board? It's just really, you got to be open-minded to it. And just remember that like, even in those moments where like you're locked in and you're creating and you're like, this is it. This is the song that changes it, or the beat that changes it, or whatever it is that you're working on. If it's non-musical, it might not be it.
Yeah.
And it might be really, really good, or you might really, really love it, but someone might just have that spice that you didn't have. And I think it's that.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say then with that, and kind of on the topic of creativity and all that, what's like your overall process? You mentioned how you like the collaboration side of things, but like where would you draw inspiration from when like creating?
It's a good question, because it varies a lot. Sometimes it'll be, you know, if we talk about, you know, when we've had a session, whether it's been here or at my studio, it's that probably 30 minutes of, you know, you're setting up, having a chat. You know, it could just be what are you been up to, or sharing something, you know, that you've been working on, or whatever it is. It's hard to say, but those for sure, those little chats, you know, oh, check out this artist I've just heard. Those things hype me up.
Yeah.
If I'm by myself and I'm trying to create, it could just be as simple as just watching something on YouTube. It could be maybe beforehand I've sat outside for a bit. It could be, you know, anything. But then there's this other side of it where I do sit down and I've got nothing. I could do everything to hype myself up, or, you know, we could have a good night's sleep. We could go for a walk. We could eat well. We do all those things, and then I sit down excited to make music and nothing will come.
It's just not there.
It's just got to be there. And
what do you, even on that, to like kind of go in at something that I think every creative person faces, is like the writer's block, that sort of thing, because a lot of frustration gets met there. Like, what do you do in those sort of stages? Yeah. Yeah.
And that's so hard for me because, like I said before, like very competitive with myself. So to sit there and be like, I know how to make music. Why can't I make music right now?
Yeah.
Because some days, and I mean, just before, I was just like cooking up whilst we're getting set up. It wrote itself. That beat. So it just depends, man. And that's where it's sort of getting to now with the way my producing is changing, or the way that I approach writing music is less mass like beat production and more around just like quality. So if I write one solid beat in 2 weeks or a fortnight, I'm pretty happy with that. Like that to me is like, I can look at that work, and this isn't just I've worked on music once and we're done. I've opened that beat multiple times and I know when it's done. Like I can feel it when it's done, unless again I send it to someone and they say, hey, I got this idea, then in which case let's open it back up and we'll revisit that. So it's I guess just understanding that you're not going to sit down every time and have something to write about. You know, you're not going to have the freshest ideas all the time. So what can I do, you know, to make good use of that time? So let's say I sit down and we're going to write a beat, nothing comes, I can start to feel a little bit frustrated. Well, maybe I'll look up a tutorial or practice mixing, or, you know, watch a video on YouTube of just someone else making beats. That to me is still a productive use of that time. Sure, I haven't got a beat to send to someone, but next time I sit down, I'll be fresh. I'll maybe have a new skill, or, like it's those things. It's just trying
And
to
I think sometimes you've even said it to me before, sometimes you just have to like actually go out and like live life. You have to have that side of inspiring things that happen within your life that can inspire you to write music. Right. And I know that we've spoken about it before of how when you start writing music from a certain place that has given you inspiration, but now you're not in that space within your personal life and who you are now, and then you're trying to create, you kind of have to like relearn it. And I know you've had
absolutely
an experience with that, and it's on the questions that I had. It was kind of how, from what I just said, how your personal life has then affected your creativity, and overall like certain aspects. And I think we've spoken about it before, but I wanted to get you to kind of go deeper into that.
It's, like when I started, I guess it goes back to when I started producing at a much different point in my life. I was in like a very, very volatile place where I was working out of frustration as well as to prove people wrong, right? And like when I say people, there was probably no one. It was just this little battle I had with myself, like, watch me succeed. So that was sort of, if you will, the fuel that sort of kept everything going. So there was always this little bit of motivation, but it was very toxic, right? Because it was always like this battle between myself and myself that was neither was going to win, because I'm just one person, right? So when I started to work on myself a lot, so like this is not just like working on beats, this is just like working on why I felt that way. So that's therapy. So I've been seeing a therapist like this whole time, and I started to notice all these changes in myself, which meant I also had to relearn how I wanted to create music, because it still is emotional. Like it's a very like, I'm creating something, right? Like it doesn't just come from nowhere. So it is still like an emotional thing. Like there's different life events that influence what I make and all those things. But it's less, like I said, it's not volatile. It's not so this or failure, right? Like it was always, if I don't succeed at making music, that's it. Whereas now it's like,
that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself as well.
It's huge.
And you wouldn't have ever really gotten this sense of like gratification from your work.
It honestly wouldn't have. It would have always been, I'm here, now I got to get to here. And that's why I think for some people, you reach a certain point and then you kind of like plateau, because in yourself, it's never enough.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, I'm so thankful that I get to create, and I'm so thankful that I've been able to meet so many people, like yourself included, and, like to get to a more positive part of that whole experience. It kind of created these relationships where now I'm not chasing music in the same way. It's not I have to succeed. It's like I have succeeded in my mind, like I've made music. That was always the goal, make music. And I'm still making music. So when I make it that simple, it's now gotten to a spot where I'm beginning to create better music, because it's not, the pressure's gone, I guess.
Yeah.
Like there's not this imaginary
And sometimes it can, I literally was talking to Oscar about it last night, because we hit the studio, and it happens more often than not. You hit the studio, we've done it heaps. We're like, we're going to go to the studio, create, and we're going to come out with like the next single, the next banger. You just have this expectation. And then it, more often than not, what actually happens is you go there, you write some stuff that you don't really fuck with, or you don't really have that spark going, and it can really like disappoint you, and you're like, oh, because you just set that expectation so high.
You do.
But if we really take it back to, I think, what you said before of the core reason as to why we ever wanted to do this was we just wanted to make music.
Yeah.
And like that was it. And then obviously there's a lot of
it brings you joy.
That's it. So I think even for people listening that are artists, to take it back to the core reason behind it, it's like you just want to create. And it takes off the pressure for
and
sure.
Like if you, so like I was definitely in the early days making music because I wanted to make music. Like it wasn't, I'd always played instruments and always gotten enjoyment from that. But it quickly went from that to like, I'm trying to make this my job.
Yeah.
Right. And that quickly, the same way I would feel about a regular 9 to 5, I started to feel about music. I didn't like that. Some people might like that. Some people might really enjoy that sort of hustle and grind to make it a 9 to 5 type of job. But all of a sudden it became so, it just felt like I was going and working for someone.
Like a chore to a degree.
It did.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. Like that, I felt like I wasn't in control. So now I make music when I want to make music with who I want to make music with. And there's new people that reach out and I reach out to new people. It's not just I've closed the doors and that's it. It's just less me running around like, what do I do? Like, how do I make this work? Oh, I'm a failure. You know, you get in your head about it. That just added this whole other layer of difficulty that didn't need to exist.
Do you think in between any of that, I know it's something that I deal with a lot, but like comparison within that, is that something that you've ever had to like kind of navigate?
Bro. Absolutely, bro. And like, you know, even just playing beats to people sometimes, like it's still, even this far into the journey, like I'm just like, oh, you know, I'm not good enough. It's not, and that's becoming less and less. Like that is something that I think so important to work on is not comparing yourself to, it's good to have comparisons, but it's like, it's just like a reference point.
Yeah, and what you take from it, a comparison to like take inspiration from, I think is good, but then to a comparison to literally compare right next to your own work. Yeah. And usually you're taking comparisons from someone that is, I guess, that you view higher than yourself.
Well, you put in, you know, the reason that there may be like a bit of envy or, you know, a bit of jealousy, like whatever it is, like however you're feeling is because you're inspired by that individual. And for me, a big part of that was like I had to take a step back and just kind of just not be on the internet so much.
Yeah, that's such a good way to honestly put it. Hey,
honestly, just get off the internet.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's hard. And like I say that, you know, knowing that I myself can probably still get off the internet a little bit more, you know, like that. It's just one of those things. It is such a, you know, and this just to, I guess, take it back to America, like, a big thing that I learned over there, and everyone already kind of knows this in their gut anyway. This isn't like some revolutionary way of thinking, but like it was just like, wow, like it really is just make yourself look like you're popping on the internet and hope the rest falls into place.
That's pretty big over there. So it is now everywhere. It is everywhere, definitely.
But at that point, that I kind of was confronted by that, and I was like, definitely tried to kind of find a way to make it all work, like come together. So the entertainment side and the music side, and then it just kind of, it was too much for me. Yeah. So I kind of went, nah, like if it's ever gonna like pop off my music, like if it's ever really gonna work, it's gonna be naturally because it's good music. Yeah. And if it's not, well, that's fine because I've made some awesome relationships. Yeah. And it's brought me, you know, my favorite thing is just to listen back to old songs. Every time something comes out with an artist, it goes into a playlist. And I love to just sit there. Most time it's towards the end of the year. It's usually towards the end of the year. I just listen back to everything that's ever come out. It's on streaming services. Because sometimes I hear one of those earlier songs. I'm like, oof. Ooh, who produced that? Yeah. I take my tag off that. Like, but it's also like a good reminder of like, you started here and now you're here. Yeah. And that's like, that kind of brings me back into check at the end of every year of like, you know, again, get off the internet, listen to your own stuff and just, you know, enjoy it. Because like a big thing is even when you're in a point where it's like, you're not enjoying it right now, I can guarantee once you get through that point, you're going to look back and be like, I miss that. Yeah. So it's like, savor it and be like stoked on it now. Stop being like, I'm not this person or this person's doing this. And like, that's me saying that to myself too. Yeah. I do the same thing, bro. And I would agree so heavily that it is like the internet and that sort of stuff that definitely puts, well, it's just like you go onto it. It's always like everyone's trying to sell something and the algorithm's trying to show you what you need to be and all these different aspects. And it's hard not to. I find myself doing it like a lot, bro. So much. It's a very hard thing to navigate. Like, actually the unfollow and mute button is actually a pretty powerful thing. Not to say like the stuff that people are putting out is not worth looking at. It just might not be for you right now.
Yeah.
Like mentally, like you might need to just lock in and just like focused on that rather than getting distracted. And it can be like it's a distraction. How many times you find yourself just doom scrolling, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to make those times more productive, and it's so hard.
It is.
Because like you blink, I'm scrolling my phone again. Like, so I think that like just taking a step back, just kind of not being so critical of yourself and even like what you are seeing as well. Just, like I said, just take a step back and just be like, I've done this, this and this and this, and it's awesome.
Yeah. And being able to, it's cool that we kind of touched on that topic of being able to divide inspiration and I've forgotten the word. What was it? What we just talked I forgot.
You're asking
inspiration
me the wrong memory.
and comparison. That's the word. Inspiration and comparison, because you can look at what someone's doing and be inspired by it. But I think it has to come organically through your way of doing it.
100%, man.
And people will, I think anyway, you can really sniff out what's just bullshit and unorganic. And when someone is trying to, like you say, like make it look poppin' on the internet, but realistically, it's just kind of a copy and paste from the last.
I've 100% been that guy.
Yeah.
Like I'd never, say all that. And like I've learned that from personal experience. And, I got it wrong. I approached it the wrong way. And I think that's fine too. Like, I used to get so frustrated with myself when it didn't go the way I thought, or not even the way I thought, maybe just the way I hoped.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like you're only in control of so much. Like there's not, even if you follow someone else's blueprint, right? You follow what you think they're doing on the internet because you've been following them for a while or whatever it is, that doesn't really mean much. Like you're not necessarily going to have the same success. Don't get me wrong. Some people do. That's why you see trends.
Yeah.
Someone's done it, the next person, so on and so forth. But it only goes so far. It's like basically the pyramid scheme of social media, right? You see someone do something awesome, then the next two, and it just works its way down until.
And then someone else sparks off some new original idea, and then it goes through.
And that's what you kind of want to aim for.
Yeah.
Be individual and, it's like, are you making music or again, are you creating for yourself? Are you creating for other people? I think as soon as it gets to the point where and when I say creating for other people, it's not like you're making music and selling music. It's like you're creating the product because you just want other people to like it.
We've had conversations how you're like, I don't do type beats.
No, I don't.
Like, I'm not doing a type beat because that's just not. Well, you're not even creating music then for yourself. You're creating it based off someone's
blueprint.
Yeah.
And again, like I'll happily draw influence from things, but it is really tough for me. And like you've witnessed this multiple times to the point where I was like, I can't do it. I just like we're not doing it. Like I just can't. And like I would always get, with a type beat, if someone's like, maybe a beat that sounds like this artist's beat, it's like we'd get there, but I would always feel that the product wasn't as good as it could be. And I'd know that, the person who's asked for it probably hasn't gotten what they've asked for. So like, I don't do type beats. I've worked on my sound for a long time. So like, if you want a glass beat, well, you'll get a glass beat. If you want whatever, a Metro Boomin beat or a Murder Beats beat, just pop that bad boy into YouTube. You will get it every time.
Do you think when you like started producing, because obviously you're watching like, we guess just like videos on YouTube on like how to learn it and stuff.
100%.
How and when did you kind of get your own sound? When did you notice you're like, oh, I'm actually starting to make things sound, it has my own touch? Like,
I kind of think it was always there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because like when I first reached out to, so it's going back so far, it's like I just started to like figure out that I really enjoyed making beats. Like I just was having so much fun. So I was like, let's do something with this. So I started trying to send beats out to people, and it wasn't like, it was a different time for like the style of beats I was making, like who I was influenced by. it hadn't isn't the right word. It had just started to kind of get going in Australia. So I didn't really know what I was trying to do. So I started to reach out to US artists because I thought maybe if I worked a bit closer with people like that, it would help me learn, right? I could, I'd get the right influence and stuff like that. But it didn't really go that way. It just went to, I was listening to these beats, I'd get inspired by them, I'd try and recreate them to learn, and it just wouldn't go. It just ended up sounding weird or whatever. So I thought, I'm just going to send them. I'm just going to send them to people, and they'll either work or they won't.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the drawing board and we'll try again. And it's actually what kind of helped me in a way. Like I remember sending the first pack of beats, and it was honestly the first artist I'd worked with. And they're a US artist. They go by Kenzie Abbott, and we've done so much music together over the years. But I just remember them saying like, these beats are weird. And I was like,
like a good weird?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like something that they just hadn't
sent
heard
me back
before.
demos, and and they were like stuff I hadn't heard before. So that kind of being the first experience I had with like showing someone who rapped my music that wasn't like a friend or someone that knew me was like, it quickly just planted that seed of like, okay, cool. Well, this person likes this and they are weird, but there's something here. So I just kept building on that. I feel that you will hear influences in my beats from other producers and stuff like that, other rappers and all sorts of things. So it's not that the type beat thing hasn't helped.
Yeah.
It absolutely has. But I've just always tried to find that balance of like, you don't want to copy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like be inspired by it and use it to learn and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, bro. That is dope. How do you think when you like were starting off, and even for other producers, like, do you still think it's like the productive way to get yourself out there as a producer is to send out beat packs to the email? I can say as an artist myself, rarely fucking check them. Like there's a few people that send them through to me, and I might send it a bit. Like, what's the way? Obviously you've kind of connected locally, and that has actually, I think, seen some success now, and you're starting to kind of like meet people locally and whatnot. Do you think that's it, tapping into the community you're into, or what do you think?
It is. That's probably where, when I look at, healthy mistakes that I've made was I was working with a few friends and stuff like that locally that were helping me, and that helped a lot, just being able to kind of do stuff instantly and not have to wait for, the back and forth of emails or DMs, all that sort of stuff. That helped. But I early on should have actually probably invested a little bit more locally. And that is something that
What was happening locally, like in rap scene when...
It was probably like during that time, like trap beats were only... They were in Australia, like there were trap like artists using them, but like I think it was very, very early. So it was still this hunger, I guess, for boom bap beats and that kind of stuff. And I wasn't producing that kind of stuff yet.
Yeah, you do now very well.
Like I draw a lot of influence from, and I always had it wasn't that I wasn't listening to that sort of stuff. It was just a part of that journey of like, let's get good at making like one sort of style and then go from there, and then they kind of all blend.
That's a good way to do it though. Hey,
yeah, well, it's sort of like, I look at it like having a little toolbox of producer tricks, right? Like it's like sometimes you're going to need different skills for different jobs, which is working with different artists. And although I don't do the type beat thing, it's nice to be able to kind of sit there and be like, well, what do you want?
Yeah, and
know that we might be able to get something inspired by, but not, a direct copy or however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it just comes back to that balance. It's like be inspired by versus just being like trying to copy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do the same thing as that person or whatever it is. Like it's,
I think you just got to be real careful with that though, when with the inspiration, because it still has to come from the part of you that wants to develop yourself, not that wants to
100%.
Copy and just see, it's worked for that person, so therefore it will work for me, which is not the case. It never is. Like even when I've created music, and I'm trying to like, oh, I want to make a song that's like that one and that. I just never. I end up just frustrated as fuck
because I guess it's that. At the end of the day, say you get the beat and it sounds like the beat that you've heard your favorite artist on or whatever it is, and then you do your version of that. You're still always going to hear their version, and is it going to be as good as your favorite artist who spent, thousands of dollars on a song versus your demo? No. So it's a dangerous way to make music, in my opinion. It's like comparing yourself to other artists or drawing that kind of inspiration from other musicians. It should just be the same as if you read a book or if you see a nice picture or you watch a movie that gets you hyped. You don't sit there after you've watched a movie and then try and write that song in movie form. So it's like, why would you listen to another song and then just try and make it exactly the same? Like that's the part I don't particularly like and have been guilty of for sure. Like, again, like I've been producing for long enough to know that I've tried a few different things and I've gotten it wrong. Gotten it wrong more than I've gotten it right.
And you mentioned healthy mistakes just before. And I think it's a really good thing to talk about mistakes and lessons and things that you've learned throughout, because a lot of the time we just hear of like success and all those sort of things from a lot of people. I wanted to get your insight on what mistakes you see that producers make a lot, or that you made a lot at the start, that then if you could kind of have a conversation with little 18-year-old Glass, you're like, don't do this.
We'd be having stern words. Absolutely. Look, it's hard to say what's the right way, what's the wrong way of doing it, because there's so many people that have had, different results from doing the same thing. But the biggest thing, I don't want to say it was like a huge mistake or whatever, maybe just a huge lesson that I learned was as soon as you start putting the money first, right? So like, this is how much I charge for my beat. You are not going to enjoy it as much. And that's what I found. Someone might argue and say, I get the money and the money's amazing. Well, that's good. I'm glad. I'm stoked for you.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like always being like, the money for the music or whatever first caused me to miss out on some opportunities, caused me to, I kind of closed myself in to who I was able to work with. And I didn't always put the money first. There was, from day one, I was always happy to, if there was a connection, we're going to make music. But it's more so, I was more so thinking of, well, how do I make this a job? And that sucked the fun out of it for me.
Yeah.
That honestly, creatively, I burnt myself out always trying to figure out what was next. Whereas flip it and I'm trying to just organically just like, hey, let's do this together as a team. Music first. If the money comes, awesome. If it doesn't, I don't care. That has been powerful. That for me has made me feel like I'm in control of the whole creative process. Versus before, it was just exhausting, man. And I don't think it should be. You should be putting in work, and it should be hard work, which means you will be tired, you might be exhausted, but the whole process shouldn't be exhausting. Yeah, and that's what it.
You should still enjoy it. There has to be that joy there. Like even this morning, for instance, I was thinking, and I said it to you before, I was like, fuck, like every single day lately, I have to wake up and it's like something has to get done, but then. I was kind of thinking that in my head. I was like, fuck, I don't often get some time to just chill out and do nothing. But then the thought came in like, I actually enjoy and I love this stuff. So like if you, what is it? There's a saying. It's like if you love what you do, then it'll feel like you've never worked a day in your life.
Yeah, dude.
And like you do get that. And it's hard through the creative process, especially when we're talking like financially, when you don't really, like it's very hard to make money off it. Like it really 100%. Is.
And like at the end of the day, like you're not going to, if opportunity comes up and it feels right and there's money involved, well, you're not going to pass that up. It's not to say give all your music away or give your creative stuff away for free. It's just more so just be willing to compromise. Just be understanding that maybe the way you think it's going to go or the way you think it should go isn't the way it is going to go, and being prepared for those little detours.
And money's always there. That's the one thing you mentioned before, how it kind of put barriers on opportunities that you could have had. Sometimes those opportunities that you get, like they're there once in your life. Like for instance, I don't know, like it could be anything, meeting someone, have the opportunity to produce or getting in the studio. It's anything that's only there. Like they come up like a very, like not at all.
It moves fast.
But money is always there. That's what I've always thought. Like it's always like tomorrow you can work and get money. Like money's not going to go tomorrow.
To make money. And I mean, I know that's a very generalized way of putting it, but like I remember when I was very, very, very young, so I'd lost a job and like was just in like not a fun place in my life. And this person, we were just having a chat and I didn't even know them. They were just like a partner of someone that I knew. And he said to me, he's like, dude, like no matter what, like if you're smart and you got your head, where it needs to be, there are ways to make money and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And that just stuck with me, bro. Like it honestly just was like, damn, like he's right. Like at the end of the day, if you really want it and you're willing to, if it gets so bad that you're willing to go just do any odd job.
Head down and just
there is
grind
money
it out.
there.
Yeah, there is.
It's not to say it's not hard to come by or that automatically makes it easy, but it's just been...
Yeah, I've always believed that as well. I think it's a good thing to kind of have in the back of your mind as well.
Yeah.
To not be so orientated on just financial gain.
Yeah.
Especially as a creative, because
it's hard.
Yeah, it is really hard.
There's a lot of people doing it and there's no... Sure, you can go to school and do certain music things and learn certain skills and they will help you or maybe they won't. Like it's hard to say, but there's no blueprint. There's no... if you do this, you will end up here. It's very much these little journeys that you go on, some that go really well, some that are just a detour that you have to get yourself back on the right path. And you think, damn, I just wasted so much time. But if you learn something from it, it's probably not a waste of time. It's just, it
kind of narrows down the tunnel as well. It narrows down the other what ifs and this and that. I think you kind of, and the earlier you get through that, the better.
100%.
Because you don't want to have to continue throughout whatever it is that you're envisioning with all these other variables. It's good to kind of make those mistakes and learn them lessons earlier on rather than 10 years down the track.
100%. Man.
And sometimes it's inevitable and unavoidable that those things will just happen. You know what I mean? And yeah, I really like that.
It's not to say as well that like every detour, every mistake is bad. Like I've made so many little mistakes that like they've just been happy little mistakes, man. They've just been like things that have just led to other things and you're like, damn, like that didn't go the way I thought. And at the time I thought I'd, messed it up or whatever, but it actually led to a better, outcome, better opportunity. So things like just being willing to change and like not being so... Like it's good to know what you want and it's good to be firm in your beliefs, but it's also good to challenge everything and kind of be willing to take on board that someone's probably done it better than you, or maybe someone's doing it better, or maybe someone's messed it up and that piece of advice they've given you is because they've messed it up, like just take it on board. And maybe it's bad advice. Yeah. But it's like something to compare.
And going off that, and I was speaking to a friend about it the other day and as I guess we both have to each other, I think maybe I just see it as you being like a mentor to me because you're older than me.
I'm an old man.
But how important it is, and we're blessed to have it here in Tassie so much throughout the music scene, of that community around you and those mentors around you that they've made those mistakes and you can have a yarn with them about those mistakes and it saves you having to maybe make similar, not the same, but similar ones. And we all do eventually have to fuck up.
Yeah, you do.
We have to, and we have to.
Not to.
But I like the sense of community around creativity, and I think from what I've like known you now for the last few years, and then at the start when I met you, you were somewhat like disconnected from the scene here.
100%.
But now that you're starting to get connected in, I've noticed like your production. Do you think the same? Like,
yeah, well, it came at a good time because like it was never like a disconnect because I didn't want to. It was just I felt that if I did well, in the States or elsewhere, that I'd be able to come back and then help put Tassie on.
Yeah.
Which was just not the best way of going about it. It was a, you know, it was a happy mistake in the end because it's led me here now. And that journey I've been on, I'm now able to share and learn from everyone else as well. I've been so lucky, especially over probably the last 12 months with the people that I've met from down here, and even just the people I've been speaking to more often from just around Australia. It's like a whole other perspective that was always there and wasn't like deliberately being ignored. It was just like I felt like I had to do my part first before I could help, or I don't know. Like I feel like now I'm very happy being like just a part of like a moving piece, like a gear in it all, right? Like that makes me so stoked to sit down and have chats with people and learn from that, share my mistakes, hear about people's successes and their mistakes. It's so, that to me is what I enjoy because then I'm able to grow as a person. And that's probably what's changed for me the most over like the last, probably since like COVID, man, to be honest, like just looking at myself and how I want to be as a person. And that's both like musically and just as a person in general, right? Like, and just that in itself has helped simplify everything. It's like, I've just tried to break everything down to its most simplest form. I want to make music because it makes me happy. And that's it. You know, I want to be a good person because that makes me feel happy. So it's all those simple things, man. And when you boil it down to that, kind of like you forget about.
Yeah, I think people just have a tendency to overcomplicate fucking everything.
I'm guilty of it, man.
Oh, dude, it really is, and it all it happens. The biggest amounts of change happen from just those small adjustments, just right then, that actually then impact the vast majority of your life.
100%, man. And just having like honest conversations, and that's like a big thing where like therapy's helped me heaps with my music. Is just being able to just talk and communicate is just so powerful, man. And it's good for you and it's good for the people around you, and it's good for your art. If you do art, it's whatever it is. If you do sports or whatever, it's just good to have a clear mind and be able to get stuff out. Because as good as it is to plot things and like plan and like, I'm going to do all this, it's going to lead to this. When you start to verbalize it out, you know, there's been times where I've had chats with you and I've kind of like spoke my plan and then I've gone, actually, maybe I could do this better. You know, like there's even beats I've sent where I've been, like I've said to you, I've been locked in. This is it. This is the one. And it's not been it. It's just,
It's because I've had the exact same thing with therapy, or even with like a phone call to me mum or something. And then I start talking about it. And a lot of the time I'll have a problem in my head. And as soon as I start talking about it, I actually solve it. That's and that's the complications of our mind.
It is, man.
That just have this real small thing. It turns into huge. And when you start talking about it, I think that's the power, especially as a creative and kind of, you show quite a vulnerable side of yourself, whether or not from production to artists to rap and all that sort of stuff. It's also really good to have them conversations just peer to peer, because you can really,
and that's a big thing. Like when I think back to just talking about wanting to do, you know, how I work when I'm working with someone in person, it is those conversations, because like I'll have a chat about mental health. Like I don't mind sharing. Like it's at first, like I was embarrassed. Like I didn't know why I did the things I did, why I want, like why my brain was how it was, and I still sometimes don't. But I hope that, you know, even in our conversations, like I will say to someone, like not maliciously, because I think like everyone's mental health journey is so different. It's the same as when we're talking about blueprints for music. There isn't necessarily a one size fits all for mental health either, but it is so powerful to be able to just talk and just, like, I don't know, like it's just.
Do you think your music has been an outlet for that as well? Yeah, like time. An outlet for.
That's why it had to come back from being so business orientated. It had to get back to the music first.
Yeah.
Because it's as much as going and, you know, like you said, having a chat with your mum, like it's the same for me, having a chat with my mum, like my partner, my therapist, whatever it is, that is, you know, very powerful. But it's also yeah, like I think you've just got to find the things that work for you and be willing to change.
Yeah.
And then the rest will kind of come very organically. I think that's what, without rambling too much, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Do you find the one thing, and I kind of already know the answer to this question, but I'm poaching you to
Hit me with it.
I find at times throughout when I first started like writing music and stuff, I wrote it from a place of, and I've even said to my friends, I've been like, oh, I want to make like a hyped up track, you know, like coming in like fucking AJ Tracy or something, but I find myself making more like vulnerable tracks, and that's just what I do when I sit down there and I just write. That's naturally what wants to come out more often than, not to say they're like sad or I'm not happy, but it's a way that I can express my vulnerabilities, and a lot of the time they're shit things that have happened in my life. Do you find yourself like shedding light more on positive aspects of your life or things that have kind of challenged you, and why do you think that is, to whichever one you answer?
It's probably because sometimes the music is from an emotional place, and that could be happy or it could be sad, or it could just be, I don't know, like I watched something and it made me stoked. Maybe Manchester United finally played good and I'm feeling good, so I write a beat. Like it could just be that simple, or it could be an event. It could be, you know, something that's happened in my life that's like inspired something. So it's not ever, whenever I sit down in the studio, it's not ever like the same. And that's what I'm learning to fall in love with again. It's just like, I feel like this today.
Yeah.
And this is what comes out. And you'll see it in like some of the beat titles. Like as much as there's all these random beat names, there are sometimes little one, and if you pay close attention, you really notice there's like little one or two words or things in there. That's how I'm feeling that day.
Yeah.
Or that's the thing I've watched, or it might be the title of a movie, whatever it is. There is something in that beat, and it's always funny to me. Not necessarily funny. It's always kind of entertaining, I guess. Like when I send something to someone and then they send something back, and it's almost like they've picked up on the cue.
Yeah, what you were inspired by, or the feeling that you were kind of putting throughout that.
And that's a big part for me, is like when I'm writing a song, because I don't write lyrics. Like I don't have, sure, I can contribute to maybe an idea or whatever it is, but I'm not, that's not a skill set I have. So I'm writing music purely because the sounds work well. Yeah. And I like how they sound. I can hear sometimes the rapper on it, but or the singer or whoever it is, I'm not always thinking about that. So then when I have someone send something back and it's like, wow, it's almost like I've sent you a brief and you like picked up on like.
Literally, it is kind of though.
It is. And I think that's what producers should be doing, is in a way, is like you're not providing a blank canvas, but you are giving like a canvas to the
and you're also setting like the environment.
You are.
To a degree. Like you listen, instantly I hear a beat and I'm like, that beat would go well with this topic or that topic, or
that's it.
All those sort of things. It's such a like, and we'll get there kind of a bit later on as well, but it is, I think, something that I feel the people that I'm around now, that I've kind of been around people that have made music for quite a long time, they have a lot of understanding and appreciation for producers. They understand how like crucial they are to the art form. But then I also do see that a lot of the time it's someone that's in the background doesn't receive as much spotlight as I think that they deserve, because they set the entire tone through giving that sort of little report that you were just talking about, that then inspires the artist to write or release, or that sort of emotion as well.
Yeah, I think that is kind of your job as a producer. Like if you're a producer, like, you know, and that's where I kind of look at it. There are some people that are producers and solely producers. There are some people that are beat makers, and there are some that are maybe a combination of the two. And I kind of put, like, I'm a producer first. I like to write beats, but I also like to kind of build on it. And that's why I love that back and forth. You know, and I almost deliberately, if I'm working with someone closely, send them beats that are maybe only 90%.
Yeah, like your skeleton beats that
I do that because I want to hear what your demo is. I want to hear what you do, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to maybe do a bit more. that building and sort of going back and forth with one another is like, that's the stuff I love.
Yeah.
And probably why I tend to gravitate more towards studio sessions with people as opposed to, here's my beat, do your thing, thanks. That's a transaction to me, and I don't want that. I want to build something.
Yeah.
You know? And whether the stuff comes out or not, I guess it's that building together with, you know, it's just, I send you an unfinished beat or 90% finished beat. You send me something back, it leaves that room. Whereas sometimes if you are sending the finished product, you can do a few things to spice it up, you know, cut a few things out, but it's only going to go so far.
Yeah.
And I think that this is why I encourage people, and it's almost like something I wish I could have told myself when I was younger, is like, build a team. You know, you probably, if you think about it, you probably know 5 or 6 people that are all doing the things that you need help with, or you can help them with something, and vice versa. So it's like, just help each other out, and the rest should come organically, and you'll have so much more fun doing it.
Yeah.
Like as soon as it's organic, it's just like,
and not so transactional.
Yeah.
Takes that away. Yeah, I feel that. Even I get that when like I collaborate with someone, or if like, for instance, I'm very fortunate to have like Dane involved in like my music videos and stuff. And the one thing that I always kind of gravitated towards him was I'd like send him my song, and then he just will fully direct it. So I just send him the song, he comes up with the concept, not me anymore, because I have that trust. It's just the same as like K-Dog. Like I'd send him the idea in a voice note. But there was other people that I'd had in the past that I'd be like, hey, like I'd love to work together. And they're like, yep, this is my fee and this is what I charge. I'm like, yes, I understand that artists do need to be paid 100%. Like there's a lot of...
there's a market there.
There is. And there's a lot of stigma kind of around it. It's just like, oh yeah, when you're starting off, you got to just do things for free and all that, which I think's wrong.
Yeah.
But when that's like the first topic, it's not even saying if we could collaborate and create together, it definitely has put me off.
I've been guilty of that.
Yeah.
You know, and like earlier on when I was sort of talking about, you know, missed opportunities and mistakes and those sorts of things, that's what I was getting at. Like, and I even said, you know, I put the money first.
Yeah.
And that does leave a sour taste in people's mouth. It honestly does. Like, you've personally experienced that. So, and that's, again, not to say like, don't do it, because some people, it is literally their job. They are making beats to sell the beats, and they're doing an awesome job. Some people have made amazing careers out of it. So it's not to say it's wrong. It's just like, be prepared for, like, if you go in money first, you might,
especially when you're going in the money first in the community aspect. I feel
100%.
It kind of,
which is a big thing for me. Like, especially when it comes to like, you know, when we're making music, or when I met you, I said to you straight up, I was like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to pay, I'm not interested.
From memory, I think I even said that to someone. I said that to like people afterwards when I was introducing you, and be like, oh yeah, there's this guy that I've linked up with. And I was like, the one thing that I really gravitated towards was that you said that. A lot of people, they're just like, oh yeah. And they have every right to as well. But 100%. I knew that you were there for the purpose of, you wanted to just create music.
I go out of my way. And I mean, I'm pretty certain the first time we did a session, the end of the session, you'd said, oh, do you want me to give you some money? I was like, no, bro, like, this is bigger than that sort of thing. And it has been, I think it's 4 years, 4 years we've been friends now. And like, that's what I'm getting at. Like, I could have said to you on that, and again, not saying this is the only way to do it. This is just the way I've done it. And I'm finding more success this way for myself. And also just, it's way more rewarding. I feel, way more rewarded doing it this way. Is just like, hey, this has been fun. We can probably build something together. Let's, you know, maybe one day we'll be sitting there with a big bag of cash on next to us together. Yeah. Versus me maybe making that couple $100 off a beat and you never wanting to hang out again.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what you need to weigh up, is like, do you just want this to be like a couple of sessions and this is this guy, he sells me beats, or do you want to build something? And it's
Yeah.
not every relationship's going to be that way.
No, no, definitely not.
It comes back to is it organic? And our friendship has been extremely organic. Like,
Yeah.
I've never felt forced to do anything, and that's why I've wanted to work with you. And I think, you can't work for free for everyone, right? Like there is, you got to find, again, that balance of how do we do this? But for me, it's like, I'd rather make money together with people than just have that little bit of cash then and there. And that's just a personal preference. It's not a right or wrong. It's just how I like to do it.
Yeah. And it just comes back to something that I guess that you value is not putting that first anymore, not putting the financial gain first, because it actually has clouded your just overall creative process.
It has. And even my judgment, man.
Yeah.
Like it's, like I've shot myself in the foot by going about it that way. And again, like people have probably gone that way and succeeded. I maybe didn't get it right, but that's what I've taken out of my like happy, healthy mistakes over the years is that.
Yeah.
Just the process first. Enjoy the process, because I'm sure that for a lot of people, once they make it, they probably miss it a little bit.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Maybe not fully, but a little bit.
Well, that's where like you kind of get all the joy of working on something. It's actually in the process of working on it. Like once you're there, you're thinking about the next thing to work on.
100%. Sometimes before you've even finished.
Yeah. Definitely. I feel that with as much as they cause a lot, but with the events and stuff, like once it's done, it's like, oh, that's not even the bit that it's the kind of in between and getting it to happen, and then you've made it happen, bro. And then it's happened, and then that's not actually even the bit that you kind of get that buzz off. It's kind of in the mix of creating it.
I never really understood the whole, like, people like, just enjoy the process. Just enjoy the process. Why? I want it now. I want to be done now. But it's the opposite. It's like, just savor it.
Yeah.
Because it's so fun. Like all those little moments you have in the studio, or, when you write that song, or, when you release it, when you see that the whole package done, enjoy it, and then be stoked on the next thing.
I think the hard thing, especially for people within the sort of music that I make, is I know my mates, me, no doubt, I know yourself as well, we all have the need for instant gratification. We have extremely addictive personalities, especially within like hip hop and rap. There's a lot of people that have faced addiction and have that need for, the instant gratification. And it can be hard then when you relate that into creativity. The process is really fun, but there is that want for like, oh, I want the song has to be done now. We have to hit the studio tonight and the banger's out tomorrow. So it's navigating. I've noticed, you just made me think of it when you brought it up, of I've had to navigate that due to my personality and the traits that I have, is to just be a bit more, just to enjoy that process a bit more. Yeah,
exactly right. And I know it's kind of like, it's humbling in a way, like you kind of just slow down. But then it's like, you don't want to come to a stop. You're just kind of taking a step back, look at what you've done, and then keep going, and again, like it is more simple than sometimes we all think. You can really, and I'm so guilty of, I've just build it up, and then it becomes this big stressful thing, and then it's done, and you're like, that was all right. That's pretty easy. So it's like, just before you get to the reflection part and you're like, oh, that was actually all right. It's just kind of stop myself before then and going, no, you're doing good.
Yeah.
Like there is growth here. It might not be super fast, or, you might not have had your overnight success where you're now at the point where you wanted to be. Yeah. That's not necessarily always going to happen. So you got to be ready for the long haul.
It is long. That's the thing, is it's not, taking back to what we first spoke about at the start, man, was it's not how it is perceived on the internet, where it's like these people are blowing up overnight. Like these people have been making music for ages. It's just that they were so underground, you didn't know who the fuck they were. And then all of a sudden that they've just blown up. Like that's the process to a degree. There's different ways that that you see it happen. And I feel maybe when I first started music, I thought that was the way.
Me too.
I thought that was the way of like, back then when I first started, SoundCloud was popping and people would be like SoundCloud shit, and then a SoundCloud rapper would pop off. And I was like, oh, that's what happens. But as I'm maturing throughout my process, I'm realizing that it's, for me anyway, it's just a very steady, gradual incline.
Yeah.
Just very steady. And sometimes it declines
It will.
down and then it just, but it's real steady. But then when you look back, like I did it.
Well, you zoom out.
Yeah. And then
And
you're
you
like,
see it. It's like anything that sort of trends upwards, right? Like if you look at it very closely, it might not look that good. But if you look at it over time, you're kind of like, well, actually, it is kind of going up, and I am doing well.
yeah.
I think it's like how you feel about it at the time, or as the journey progresses. And if you're feeling good, well, again, it should be that simple.
Yeah. Giving yourself the times to be able to reflect as well. I think I did that just the other night. It's all right. Like, I think I'm a very like visual person when it comes to reflection. So like I can like sit up in this room and look here and be like, fuck, like I built this place. And once upon a time I dreamt of it, and I speak about that a lot. But
That's it, man.
it's, I think, figuring out what way is the easiest for you to reflect. If it's thinking about like memories, past times, if it's visually, but still like organically and in a healthy way of reflection, not getting so caught up in things that are artificial and out of our control.
Oh, big time. And
Yeah.
that's that get off the internet.
Yeah, bro.
Like,
yeah.
you know, and I say it all the time. I get off the internet because I want to get off it more myself. You know,
Yeah.
like I have even looked at what I'm looking at on the internet. So it's less social media and it's more like just looking at something and learning something instead, trying to be like, yeah, sure, I'm on the internet, but I'm not comparing myself. Like I'm not, I'm just learning. And that's, where I'm finding the most power, because like I'm back in control. It's not like, this person's blown up, why haven't I blown up? And it's easy to get like that because again, you're looking at what someone's posted that looks amazing, but you don't know their grind.
Yeah.
They've probably also got something.
It's a highlight reel of it's a 2% life highlight reel. The rest, the 98% of shit and hard work and
behind
sacrifice.
closed doors.
No, you don't see that. Like you really don't.
And when I started kind of even just having more conversations with people around how I was feeling, because there was a point, man, I was done. It was probably nearly 2 years ago. Like I was at a point where I was still making music, but it was when I was really in that self-reflection, like what does it look like for me? And there was thoughts of, I failed, that's why it's not popping yet. I haven't done the right things. All these things, or maybe I'm not doing it right, I need to change. And it really just boiled down to I wasn't having fun making music. And I wasn't having fun because I was so competitive with myself. And it's like, and yes, I was comparing myself to other people that had their own successes, and even like just looking at things that I thought were inspiring me, but were actually I was just directly looking at what I was doing and being like, well, I'm not doing the same as them. So it was a lot of hard conversations with myself around like, well, why are you doing this? And when I was able to answer that question because I love making music, each month now I've just started falling in love with it more and more. And it's literally, like I said, the music first and everything else just comes with it.
Yeah. I think we've spoken a lot on like process and the flow of creativity and all those sort of things. I wanted to kind of turn it to the next slide of after what you've just spoken about now and finding and I guess falling back in love with the process of making music. What are the things that you're currently working on now? Like the collaborations, obviously I know them, but
yeah, well, there's a bit of stuff. It's more now I'm like, just really want to build things with people. So like listening to what people are working on and seeing if I have anything to offer, not just from like, here are all my songs, work on my stuff, to how can I help this person grow their stuff. But I guess with what I'm working on, it'd be, I guess we got a couple of demos that are in the works, and then producing a couple of sort of more band orientated stuff for a few artists that don't have anything out yet. So I can't dive too much into it, but there is some singles there. I've got, I guess, a project I've been working on for a little while with one of my oldest friends, who's also your tattoo artist. So shout out to K-Dog. He's
big shout out.
I'll get back to the main question, but going back to that almost quitting, he kind of come out and said, hey, let's write some music. And we started this EP, which is.
Was that when he was doing like rap stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good as well.
And
that was good.
It's gonna come out. So we're working on that. It's just slow cooking.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
We'll know when it's ready. So there's that. And then I've got a few songs in the works with MCB, which is the young homie who I've been so blessed to work with, and thanks to yourself for introducing us. So I'm stoked on that. We should have some stuff coming out. And then I've got a project in the works with Hermit as well, which has been so much fun to work on with him. As soon as I have a beat, it's gone. Like and that hypes me up. So it's really those things that I'm like super focused on at the moment.
Yeah.
And just kind of just figuring out like what I want to do, because I like making my own projects too. Like I've over
you've done like a few producer albums, haven't you?
I have. So I did 2 sort of lo-fi instrumental.
Yeah, cool.
Sort of
I don't even know if I've heard them.
Yeah, they're old.
Yeah.
They're tucked away on Spotify.
They are.
They're tucked away. And I did those just because I wanted to understand early on what it was like to just put out your own music. So to see it from, the artist side, because again, like I don't write lyrics or anything like that. So yeah, I put out 2 instrumental projects a few years ago, and that was, again, learned a lot from that. Super fun. And then I did a producer sort of album, I guess, where I kind of, these people I'd met over the years. So
that's all around the world as well, hey?
Yeah. So we did, we've got the States, UK, guy from Switzerland, and Australia.
Yeah.
On that one. And that came out sort of 2 years ago. And it was all sort of produced by myself, and I kind of just reached out to these people I'd done songs with and put it all together. And that was an amazing process. Not so much because it was like, like it didn't blow up or anything like that, but it was like I got to do everything. Like I got to kind of see what it's like to put together a whole project, not just work on one song.
We should do something like that here.
Well, let's do it.
Honestly, that would be sick. That'd be so much fun.
And it is. That's the best part, because you're making these friendships with people, and like you get to listen back to it. And each time you get to listen back to it, it kind of like reminds you of that process that you went through to get there. And yeah, so that stuff has been super fun. And I do intend on sort of probably doing some more beat tapes where it is just instrumentals.
Yeah.
I love working on that sort of stuff, because I get to kind of do the whole, like I'm trying to paint a picture with sound without using any words. And that's fun. That's a challenge. So there'll be definitely more of that in the future. And then just trying to work with more artists. Just, like I want to be in the room with people and not necessarily orchestrate at all, but just it's a lot of fun just sort of vibing off each other.
It's definitely when we had, it's yet to even come out, but when we had like everyone up here and you were here with like Lockie and stuff, and then Marcus was here, that track is like polished as, because we had you on the production and then Lockie went and like mixed and mastered it, and it was like, it sounds sick.
And that's probably the best example of like what I've been talking about here today in terms of like what I like to do. It's for that, right?
Yeah.
Because you look at the whole process and it was fun from start to finish. And it was like organic as. It was I didn't feel pressure. Like I cooked the beat up in front of everyone there and it just flowed, because that's what I like. You
had it done so quick as well. I think all of us were like, shit, we haven't even wrote like 4 bars.
Well, I thought that was the warm up.
It was supposed to be.
Yeah, I was just like, I haven't sort of, it was only yourself that I knew. I sort of internet wise knew everyone in that room that day, but it was like, I kind of need to warm up. Like I need to like do something in case this is trash and no one wants it. And then everyone was just vibing. And that also, like, as a producer, when you kind of look around the room and everyone's kind of bopping their heads and they're on their phone, you can see them, they're writing stuff.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And that's what I learned when I got to like America. Like I was all of a sudden went from producing by myself in a room to, we had in a few of these sessions, 5 or 6 producers, laptops, headphones on, everyone's just like writing away. And then what would happen is you'd we were working with maybe one or two rappers and you'd play your beats, one or two might get picked and then they'd kind of write some stuff to it. Next producer's up, your headphones on, you're writing again. And that pressure of like,
how many like producers were there?
it was like in one of the sessions, we were like 5 or 6, I think.
Shit. That's like a goal of mine,
it was like a beat factory. It was like,
Sweatshop.
Literally sweatshop
rinsing them
vibes.
out.
Yeah, dude. And like, that stuff's fun. And, and I also, in a way, when I talk about liking to make beats on the spot or like in the studio with people, it's kind of that pressure as well. Like I don't want to waste anyone's time. So like you kind of got to perform.
That also, I can definitely say, obviously I don't produce beats, but writing music, what has helped you in that instance, if from my opinion, is your experience, like you going to America, like you producing for so long, having such like a wide scope on genres that you can produce. Because in a way, I got to actually say I'm the opposite at times, and you know this because when we link up in person, sometimes like I just can't write as better as I can when I'm by myself. I feel when I'm by myself, it naturally lets me be more vulnerable to my music, and that's when I get my best music. So that's something that I'm actually learning to do, is to be able to write music while someone else is kind of there as well.
Yeah,
it's another skill to do. Yeah.
It is, man. It is. And it makes me think back to when we first worked together. And I remember like I could tell there was like this little bit of nervousness when we were writing and recording together, not because of like necessarily the content of the song or anything like that. But you are, in a sense, when you're in a room or a studio, it might not even be the producer. When you're talking about stuff you've written down, you haven't written it down because it doesn't mean anything to you. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there is weight in those words. And to then have to like just in front of a stranger who's like pressing record for you and like maybe giving you feedback.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. So to then form those relationships with artists, and that's again, like it's probably where it's so powerful to like find a small team and like work together.
Especially small, I think is important.
And being able to, you know, get on the mic and talk about some stuff that's like real hard for you to talk about to your closest mates in front of a producer, to make that comfortable, you are going to get a better finished product.
Oh, definitely. It comes from that comfort. And that's then when I was saying something that I've had to like learn to get more comfortable in doing. There's a few of my friends that I write music with that I'm a lot, just I have the ability to be more vulnerable through my music with. And I guess just because we just might be writing on the same topics and all that. But I think it's good to kind of identify who those people are that you have that connection with and really strengthen that trust, because it comes down to trust.
It does. Absolutely, man. And yeah, that's a really good way. Like it does come down to, I guess, trust, because you as like me as the producer, right? This is my baby, right? And like you're handing it over to someone, and same goes, like you as an artist, like you're then putting your part on it, and you've maybe got to send it to a mix engineer or back to the producer or to whoever, if you're doing a film clip, and like it's like your baby. So like you're going to be protective of it and you want the best for it. Right. So having those close relationships is going to help. Yeah. Big time. And I've still got people that I often go to that maybe I'm not even working with now in the sense of we're making music together, but I'll send them stuff just for that perspective, just for that feedback. And that's helpful. Just having people that I'd consider mentors or, you know, as well as friends to go, this is awesome, but, you know, they're not involved in the project other than just listening to it. So you know what they're telling you is like out of like a listener's point of view. Yeah. So even just having that, that's good. Just have people you can bounce off that you're comfortable with.
And you've gone to someone, like you're not just putting that up on like your Instagram story, for instance. No. You've gone to people that you'd take advice from. So therefore you'll also take their opinion. You know what I mean?
Big time. And like, not just yes men either. Yeah. When there's people that you know are going to be like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Yeah, cool, thanks. Like that's amazing. But like, do you have, you know, why is it the best thing? Yeah. Like that's sort of the thing that I like from people is like, it's so nice and it's, you know, it makes you feel so good when you play something for a friend and they love it. But there is always going to be that little bit of like your mate. So they're going to be stoked for you, which is awesome. They should be because they're your mate. but you do also need just that little bit of like people that are the final product's their biggest goal. And having a couple people like that, I've gotten better music at the end of the day out of it.
And also I think on that is just realizing how like subjective a listener's ear is, because I've showed the same song to two people that I really trust, know them, they don't know each other. One person's like, yeah, I love the cadence that you use in that song. The other person's like, nah, I don't like it. Me personally, I actually like it. So of course I went with that, but it just shows how subjective like the ear is and how subjective 100%. Our mind is. It's not just because that person doesn't like it doesn't mean that it's shit entirely. It's a fine line. It's hard to navigate, because if you cook up something that's sick and you're like, nah, like I love this, and you kind of, but then you also have to think, why am I showing this person? If I'm like in my mind, like this is sick, polished and done, probably showing for more of like an ego gain rather than a gain of it being like, hey, what's the advice? Maybe if you like communicate that with the person as well, it's probably a lot better as well. Like, because at the end of the day, it's your music. You can make it however you want. But if you're looking for advice, just be prepared to hear some shit that you're probably not going to want to hear.
And that's very well put, man. Like you have to be so ready for that, because it's the same as like if you're releasing stuff, right? And you get that comment or you get someone that's just not about it, you'll be ready for that. Like, and just know that it's not for everyone, and that's totally okay. Think of all the times you've consumed something and being like, that's shit. Like, won't watch that again. Like, won't listen to that anymore. So it's understanding that people are also going to feel that way about your stuff, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's game over. Like, you just keep going.
Yeah, for real. For real. I think I want to end it on a pretty, like a cool one. It's broad, but it's always interesting. It's something that like I think about a lot. But like, for instance, when your time in life and then also within music, because I don't know if you're going to be producing when you're like 70, maybe, probably, well, you love the idea of it, but I don't know. But what is like, I guess, the legacy that you want to leave behind with your production and your music?
That's a good one, man. I would say if I'm thinking about a legacy, it's just that I gave back, like whether I make it or I don't, that I just shared some knowledge, that I just make myself available to those that have questions, because I didn't necessarily always ask questions, and I didn't necessarily I didn't know who to ask certain questions to. So I'd hope that as I continue to produce and hopefully make myself more known amongst the community, that I'm approachable and I'm able to sort of just have a chat with people and sort of say the same way I'm saying about mistakes and things like that. That's the legacy, man. Just be approachable and be willing to just talk.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, sure, the music's a big part of that, but I just hope that I can share some game with people and hopefully see what already is an amazing sort of scene that's growing in terms of hip hop, and just like people creating, just be a part of that, And
I think the other cool legacy that kind of music has the power to leave behind is, and something that I've thought of, and I reckon you definitely have as well, is when you're older and say you've got grandchildren or all this sort of stuff, you can like kind of show that, and it can inspire like your own like family generation to do that sort of stuff as well. Like, that's some pretty powerful stuff. I know that, for instance, to go back on the internet topic now, on a positive note, what we have is these things can live for a lot longer than when like my great-great-grandfather's, like there's like photos, but there's no videos of him talking. There's none of that. So like,
that's a big thing, man. Yeah. Like it is much easier to sort of make your mark in a way, because it might not always be that you make your mark and the whole world hears, sees it or consumes it, whatever, but you'll do something, like whether it's you've inspired a relative or, like you've shared some knowledge with someone and it's changed their, the way they're headed in, like whatever it is. Like, I think that is very powerful. And I've said this before I've even touched on it today about how I like to listen to that playlist of mine towards the end of every year. Well, I've even said to people, imagine how amazing it'll be whether you make it or not when you hit 70 or however old it is and you listen back and you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Like I did that.
Yeah.
And it might not have gone the way that you thought it was going to go. You might not do it in the way that you thought, but like you will listen back and be like, damn, I did that. Like that was me, my friends and, all the people around me over however many years you do it for. And I think that in itself is like the best thing out of it all is like it will always be there.
Yeah, yeah. Same, just like this podcast, bro.
It will, man.
That's a big thing of what I've done as well with some of the people that I've had on. I've thought like this is like timeless to a degree as long as the society is still in what it is now.
Yeah. Absolutely. We don't know where it's going to go, but it is, it's well put for sure.
There's actually one other thing I wanted to end it on.
All right.
Because I looked at my note and I was like, I didn't ask you that. Secret sauce tips for producers. Any like plug-in that you had that was like, I wish I had this when I was 20, or any like any person that you have watched and you're like, that dude taught me so much. Because there's definitely a big I don't know so much in producing, but there's like this gatekeeping sort of shit that goes on quite a lot in creativity. I think like respectfully, fuck that. Like I want to see shit growing. I know you've never been like that, but some people are.
Some people are, and I mean, I probably in my younger years have. Like, I won't say, I can't remember, but I probably have been a little bit like, oh, this is mine. But I would say in terms of like, I love sharing stuff that I've accumulated over the years. So even like when I met MCB that first time, I could see this, like, he wanted to learn a bit more about producing. So I just, after the session, sent him a few things that I thought might help. So it's like, I'll always share game. And if people have questions, I don't mind answering it. It's like, just because I figured it out, it doesn't mean it's my thing. Like, So I guess things that I would look for tips I'd give in terms of like the production side of things is don't fall for the trap of just having every single sound. Like there's so many cool sounds out there, especially drum kits, and like you can get lost in so many different worlds of like Reddit pages, and there's loop kits on websites, there's Splice, there's Track, there's all these places where you can get stuff from. Just condense it down to like a small toolkit of sounds that you like and that you've had success with, and kind of pick and add from that. I like to think it was like, it's kind of corny, it was like a tackle box full of sounds, right? It's kind of like I'll swap things out for the job. So like, that would be my tip, is just kind of find the sounds that you like. Don't always gravitate towards the sounds that everyone else is using, because your stuff will sound like everyone else's. But it's not to say don't take those things and put your spin on it. Yeah. So that would be sort of a tip. I don't have like a specific website or anything that I go to. In terms of plugins, I would say less is more. So just get really familiar with what you've got. There's so much good free stuff. When I started out, everything I used was free. Like, and I don't mean pirated either. I just mean literally. Yeah, I know you're like against that. My people will disagree, and I don't, again, personal preference. I've always paid for my stuff when I could afford to, and that's forced me to learn to work with what I've got. And I really like that. Like, that's kind of, especially nowadays, like if you use Ableton or Fruity Loops, even Logic Pro, like they've got out of the box some awesome stuff. Use that, get really good at that, then just expand a little bit. That'd be that. And then things I'd probably look at avoiding is falling into the trap of just trying to like push your beats on certain websites. Again, people have had a lot of success with it, and you could too. Like, I'd prove me wrong. No, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But I do feel it's oversaturated. So
Yeah,
I'd say
definitely.
don't necessarily go, I have to make all these beats and they have to get on this site. Just try and find artists that like your stuff, build it together, have fun and enjoy the process along the way. Like that'd be sort of a thing, both a tip and a stay away from all in one, I think, man.
Dope. No, I like how you didn't like explicitly mention like any actual thing, because I think that's really good advice to take on, because everyone is going to work differently.
I want to leave it open to interpretation in a way. Like it's, just because I do it a certain way doesn't mean it's the right way. There's been plenty of times where I've thought it is the right way, and then I've been humbled very quickly in it's not the right way, and I've just learnt from that. So it's not fair for me to sort of sit and say, don't use this site or stay away from this, because damn, like if you think it's going to work, it might.
Yeah.
And there's been times where I've avoided something, someone's then used it in front of me, or I've seen it and I've gone, well, ain't I a little bit of a hypocrite now?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that'd be like what I'd say for sure.
No, dope, bro. Well, I don't even know how long we've been talking for.
No, long one, brother.
I got no. How long? Hold on. Like it's an hour and 30. It's gone so quick. I was worried that it was like too short.
Nah, brother. Always stuff to talk about.
Oh no, this feels like it's 45 minutes.
No.
Oh, that's gone very quick. No, I think like obviously everything will be in the description for all your work and stuff, and I'll put like your contact details in there for anyone that wants to reach out for advice or working with you or anything. But if you want to,
it's like anything. As much as I want to work with everyone and take on everyone, I am only one person, so there are times where I have to say, hey, I'll hitch up in this amount of time, or it might just not organically flow. But I always encourage people to say, just reach out. Let's have a chat. Let's see if there's something there. And if there is, we'll cook up. And if not, maybe I can just give a piece of advice, or we'll learn something from it. So it's
dope,
either way, reach out is my advice.
Sick. All right. Well, that's a wrap. I think that is episode 9. If everything goes in, what's the word? Chronological order. Is that the word?
Yeah, it is,
All
mate.
right, that's the word. Learn shit today, mate.
There, brother.
Cheers for coming on, bro. It's definitely been a long-awaited episode, and it won't be the last time or the last time we do anything together. I think I've got a few ideas through talking on this podcast now that once we finish this podcast, I'm like, let's do this shit, which is good.
It's just the beginner, man, and I'm so excited to be a part of, what you're doing, and as much as you've said I've been a bit of a mentor to you, like I said, you've also been a huge mentor to me, and now we're in a thing together, and this is the first chat, but I can't wait to see where 12 months, 24 months, what the next chat looks like, what we've done. So.
No, likewise, bro. Wicked. Cheers, brother.
Thanks,
heaps.
Job done.